all of it before them. Jack had filled out through the shoulders and hams. Ennis stayed as lean as a clothes pole, stepped around in worn boots, jeans, shirts, summer and winter, added a canvas coat in cold weather. A benign growth appeared on his eyelid, giving it a drooping appearance. A broken nose, healed crooked. Years on years, they worked their way through the high meadows and mountain drainages, horse packing into the Bighorns, Medicine Bows, south end of the Gallatins, Absaricas, Granites, Owl Creeks, the Bridger Teton Range, the Freeze-Outs and the Shirleys, Ferrises and the Rattlesnakes, Salt River Range, into the Wind Rivers over and again, the Sierra Madres, Gros Ventre, the Washakies, Laramies, but never returning to Brokeback. Down in Texas, Jack's father-in-law died, and Lorene, who inherited the farm equipment business, showed a skill for management and hard deals. Jack found himself with a vague managerial title, traveling to stock and agricultural machinery shows. He had some money now and found ways to spend it on his buying trips. A little Texas accent flavored his sentences, cow twisted into cow, and wife coming out as wife. He'd had his front teeth filed down and capped, said he'd felt no pain, wore Texas suits and a tall white hat, and to finish the job grew a heavy mustache. In May of 1983, they spent a few cold days at a series of little ice-bound, no-name high lakes, then worked across into the hail-strewn river drainage. Going up, the day was fine, but the trail deep drifted and slopping wet at the margins. They left it to wind through a slashy cut, leading the horses through brittle branchwood. Jack, the same eagle feather in his old hat, lifting his head in the heated noon to take the air scented with resinous lodgepole, the dry needle duff and hot rock, bitter juniper crushed beneath horses' hooves. Ennis, weather-eyed, looked west for the heated cumulus that might come up on such a day. But the boneless blue was so deep, said Jack, that he might drown looking up. Around 3, they swung through a narrow pass to a southeast slope where the strong spring sun had had a chance to work, dropped down to the trail again, which lay snowless below them. They could hear the river muttering and making a distant train sound a long way off. 20 minutes on, they surprised a black bear on the bank above them, rolling a log over for grubs, and Jack's horse shied and reared, Jack saying, "Whoa, whoa!" Ennis's bay, dancing and snorting, but holding. Jack reached for the .30-06, but there was no need. The startled bear galloped into the trees with a lumpish gait that made it seem it was falling apart. The tea-colored river ran fast with snowmelt, a scarf of bubbles at every high rock, pools and setbacks streaming. The ochre-branched willows swayed stiffly, pollened catkins like yellow thumbprints. The horses drank, and Jack dismounted, scooped icy water up in his hand, crystalline drops falling from his fingers, his mouth and chin glistening with wet. "Get beaver fever doing that," said Ennis. Then, "Good enough place." Looking at the level bench above the river, 2 or 3 fire rings from old hunting camps. A sloping meadow rose behind the bench, protected by a stand of lodgepole. There was plenty of dry wood. They set up camp without saying much, picketed the horses in the meadow. Jack broke the seal on a bottle of whiskey, took a long, hot swallow, exhaled forcefully, and said, "That's one of the 2 things I need right now." Capped and tossed it to Ennis. On the 3rd morning, there were the clouds Ennis had expected, a gray racer out of the west, a bar of darkness driving wind before it in small flakes. It faded after an hour into tender spring snow that heaped wet and heavy. By nightfall, it had turned colder. Jack and Ennis passed the joint back and forth, the fire burning late. Jack restless and bitching about the cold, poking the flames with a stick, twisting the dial of a transistor radio till the batteries died. Ennis said he'd been putting the blocks to a woman who worked part-time at the Wolf Ears Bar and Signal, where he was working now for Stoudemire's cow and calf outfit. But it wasn't going anywhere, and she had some problems he didn't want. Jack said he'd had a thing going with the wife of a rancher down in Childress, and for the last few months he'd slank around expecting to get shot by Lorene or the husband, one. Ennis laughed a little, said he probably deserved it. Jack said he was doing all right, but he missed Ennis bad enough sometimes to make him whip babies. The horses nickered in the darkness beyond the fire's circle of light. Ennis put his arm around Jack, pulled him close, said he saw his girls about once a month. Alma Jr., a shy 17-year-old with his beanpole ring, Francine, a little live wire. Jack slid his cold hand between Ennis's legs. Said he was worried about his boy, who was, no doubt about it, dyslexic or something. Couldn't get anything right. 15 years old, couldn't hardly read. He could see it, though goddamn Lorene couldn't admit to it, and pretended the kid was okay. Refused to get any bitchin' help about it. He didn't know what the fuck the answer was. Lorene had the money and called all the shots. I used to want a boy for a kid, said Ennis, undoing buttons, but just got little girls. I didn't want none of either kind, said Jack, but fuck all's worked the way I wanted. Nothing ever come to my hand the right way. Without getting up, he threw deadwood on the fire, the sparks flying up with their truths and lies. A few hot points of fire landing on their hands and faces, not for the first time. And they rolled down into the dirt. One thing never changed. The brilliant charge of their infrequent couplings was darkened by the sense of time flying. Never enough time.